All right. Hi, everybody. First thing I want to tell you is this photo was taken of me in the morning before I was arrested by Chinese police and held for about a week in prison. Now, I'm telling you that as a way to let you know that, everything's going to work out. All right? I'm gonna tell you some stories about some people, but just bear with me. Everything's going to work out. All right? The next thing I want to tell you is my parents really taught me that, you can do anything. But what that means is you have a lot of responsibility. So just want to leave you with one thing. Just remember that nothing is written, everything changes, all right? So 12 years ago, I was here in DC, and I was part of something called IndiaMedia. And we thought it was going to be the future. There was a quote that I read in the research of this talk that said, before the internet, there simply were no tools for grassroots media, and the internet has leveled the playing field. 12 years ago, right? 7 years before the founding of YouTube and citizen journalism, all the things that we think of today as the internet. So you can say maybe we were a little ahead of our time. But the point is, we had a passion. We wanted to be the media. We wanted to tell people the stories that were unheard. But after time, after a little while went by, we realized we weren't changing and we weren't adapting and we weren't really going forward and telling the real stories. Because, not everybody wants to be a journalist. And if you don't go to find those people and encourage them to tell their stories, you're never going to get all the stories. This is Omar. Omar is a Palestinian Syrian who was born in Iraq, a stateless person who then found a war and a lot of other things as if his life wasn't messed up enough. He never wanted to be a journalist. He was in the Air Academy. He wanted to be a pilot, right? After the invasion of Iraq, 13 of the 17 members of his class died within the span of the first few years of the war. So you can imagine, why Omar might have seemed to me as something of a nihilist, a guy who didn't really seem to care about anything. He cared about motorcycles and Metallica. And what must he have thought when he met me? 25 years old, dropped in Baghdad with barely a plan, here to tell people stories. Well, after 3 weeks, Omar said to me, "Dude, do you think we could ever start our own TV news agency in Iraq?" He's 18, I'm 25. We have no resources. But remember what I told you. This is the same year that YouTube was started, and Blip TV, and all various video sharing sites. So we did it. For 3 years, we produced a weekly news and documentary program about life in Iraq. But after that time, Omar was a refugee. All of our colleagues lost family. We couldn't keep doing it, right? But I couldn't let go. I was doing it not for the story. I was doing it because I didn't know how to do anything else. Then my daughter was born, and I learned a lot more about letting go, right? I learned that everything changes. Remember what I told you? Everything changes. This is Mabruka. She's a Libyan woman photojournalist. So let me tell you how I got to Libya. In 2011, I was planning to go to Egypt and help support the media starting up there. And funders, as funders do, said, well, we really think you should go to Libya. So I showed up in Libya on March 9th, just 1 week before the invasion of the attack on Benghazi, and all the journalists fled. So we spent a week there training 12 English teachers to be journalists and filmmakers. Then March 19th happened. All the journalists fled. Everybody left. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have any backup. We didn't know support. So when the journalists left, we left. 12 hours later, I hadn't heard anything from my colleagues in Libya. 24 hours later, still nothing. My friend Louis and I, a guy I was working with, we sort of said, well, it was a good try. We did good work. But, maybe something will come. 36 hours later, 6 videos were published by the team in Benghazi, entirely by themselves, right? They shot it, they edited it, they uploaded it, they got it done. And that was the start of the first fact-based news agency in Libya. Unfortunately, at the end of the revolution, Most people went back to their lives, because most people don't want to be journalists. Most people have a lot of other passions, and that's okay. But Mabruka, she's a photojournalist, and a Libyan and a woman, and she's from Benghazi. You've probably heard about Benghazi because they've been talking about it a lot in the debates and in the news about, Al-Qaeda and crazy Islamists. And I just want you to look at Mabruka and know that there's a lot of people in Libya, and that's not the whole story. And they want your help. They want you to hear them. They also want you to tell your stories so they can hear their stories, right? She told me today that the one thing she wants people to know is that even though we have a revolution, there's still no support for the free media in Libya. So we don't know what's going to happen next. Just last week, I was in Tunisia working with locals there who actually, they did choose to be revolutionaries. They are choosing to be journalists. But they don't know how. They don't know where to start, right? You can see here, this is the hands, that's Mohammed Nasri. I met Mohammed via Facebook. I just asked some journalists who'd been in Tunisia during the revolution, is there anyone you can recommend? And they suggested this guy, Mohammed. And when I showed up in Tunis, I suddenly thought to myself, what am I doing? I don't know anything about this guy other than a few people recommended him. And I said to my colleague, I was like, I need to tell you something. I don't actually know this guy that well. We could be in for something a little scary. But again, I'm here. It all worked out. Mohammed is 30 years old, and he runs an internet cafe in Kasserine. Kasserine has double the unemployment of the national average in Tunisia. They have no opportunities. They have no reason to feel positive about their lives, yet they're really doing it. They really want to make media, and they really want to tell their stories. And the question is whether or not you and other people will listen, right? You look at this slide, and you probably think I'm going to tell you that the future of media is mobile. But that would be kind of tired, and we've heard that a lot. I want you to think that the future of media is local, right? This is the future, right? Tunisians telling the stories of other Tunisians, posting them online. During the Egyptian revolution, we have a huge Egyptian and Arabic immigrant populace in America. They had to look at Al Jazeera or Facebook or Twitter because there simply was no news. There was no stories being told about those people. Everybody has a story, and somebody wants to listen to it, right? I think that's the question. How are we going to help people tell their stories? How are we going to help you tell your stories? Help other people listen, right? As I said, not everybody wants to be a journalist. Not everybody wants to be a revolutionary. For myself, I could tell you I didn't want to be a journalist. But yet, look at my life. I've very much taken that role. I'm here to help people tell their stories. So the reality is, we don't know what the future holds, right? Everything changes. And that's awesome. We've heard a lot about global climate change and the backward immigrant policies and all of these things that we have that we need to fix. But the future is unwritten. We still have time, right? You just have to want to do it. And you have to be willing to be brave, tell your story, and change, right? You can't keep doing everything the same and expect different results. I have no idea who these girls are. But I know one thing. This is the future. This is the future of journalism. And we better get ready, and we better get used to it. It's not going to be Anderson Cooper forever. Thank you.